What happens when the very system designed to protect you turns its suspicion on you? What happens when a badge of authority becomes a veil of prejudice? Today, we're sharing the incredible, real-life inspired journey of Judge Alea Jenkins, a Black woman, a trailblazer who faced an injustice that could have broken anyone else, but instead she turned a moment of humiliation into a movement for change. This is more than a story. It's a testament to resilience, a masterclass in fighting for what's right, and a powerful reminder that even in the face of deep-seated bias, hope, and redemption can emerge from the most unexpected places. Stay with us. You won't want to miss a single second of this. Some mornings begin with a promise of peace, a quiet drive to a job you love, a profession you've dedicated your life to. But for Judge Alea Jenkins, a crisp autumn morning was about to unravel, not with a whisper, but with the sudden harsh glare of flashing blue lights in her rearview mirror. It was a familiar sight for anyone on the road, yet for Alea it always carried an unspoken weight, a historical echo that resonated deeper than just a potential traffic ticket. Alea wasn't born into privilege. Her path from the bustling, vibrant streets of Southside Atlanta to the hallowed halls of justice was paved with relentless determination and the echoes of countless injustices she witnessed firsthand. She'd navigated underfunded schools where potential often went unnoticed, witnessed friends and family face racial profiling that stripped away their dignity, and felt the chilling sting of being an outsider in spaces that were, by design, not meant for her. But instead of letting these challenges define her, she harnessed them, transforming every hurdle into fuel for her unwavering ambition. She carved her path through sheer will, driven by a profound belief that the law, when applied justly, could be a shield for the vulnerable, not a weapon against them. This deep-seated conviction had propelled her through law school, where she excelled, and into a career that quickly earned her a reputation for fairness, integrity, and an unwavering commitment to justice. Her position wasn't just a job, it was a testament to her resilience, a title she wore with pride and immense responsibility. The hum of the engine, the familiar route through the tree-lined streets of an affluent suburb, it was a routine she cherished. Yet, her thoughts were miles away, grappling with the complexities of a highly publicized police misconduct case she was presiding over. It was a case that hit uncomfortably close to home, a stark reminder of the battles she had and continued to fight. For Alea, police misconduct wasn't just a legal abstract, it was a lived reality she had seen impact countless lives, scarring communities and eroding trust in the very system she now sought to uphold. She knew that systemic racism wasn't just a headline, it was a pervasive shadow, stretching across the justice system, and her role, her gavel, was a powerful tool against it. Then, in her rear view, a flicker, a police cruiser, too close, and then the undeniable, piercing flash of blue and red, shattering the morning's calm. Alea glanced at her speedometer. No speeding, no traffic violations. She frowned, a faint ripple of confusion, then a deeper current of apprehension. This wasn't just a routine stop, she instinctively knew. This was something else entirely. She pulled over to the side of the road, her calm demeanor already beginning to mask the irritation that bubbled beneath the surface. A white police officer with over a decade on the force, Officer Thomas Vance, approached her car. He was known for his no-nonsense attitude and strict adherence to the rules, a reputation that often tipped into outright inflexibility. As he walked toward the car, he adjusted his utility belt, his hand resting casually on his holster. A gesture that, for Alea, was far from casual. It was a sign, a signal that a story she knew all too well was about to begin. Alea rolled down her window, her calm demeanor a practiced facade, expertly hiding the irritation she felt at being pulled over without apparent cause. Officer Thomas Vance, a decade deep in the force, was known for his by-the-book approach, but today by-the-book felt less like protocol and more like prejudgment. His voice cut through the quiet morning, authoritative and impersonal. "License and registration," he barked, his voice devoid of warmth, a chilling prelude to what was to come. Alea, a woman who had navigated countless challenging situations with grace, felt a familiar irritation prickle beneath her calm exterior. She knew this script by heart. She reached into her glove compartment and handed over the documents without a word. She watched as Vance examined them, his brow furrowing as he looked from the papers to her and then back again. It was a routine gesture, yet loaded with unspoken meaning. "This your car?" he asked, his voice laced with suspicion. Aaliyah confirmed, her tone even. "Yes, it is," she replied, her voice a study in composure, even as the familiar script of racial profiling began to unfold. Vance raised an eyebrow, clearly not convinced. "What are you doing in this neighborhood?" The question hung in the air, thick with implicit bias. It wasn't about traffic laws, it was about her presence, her very right to be in a place he seemingly deemed not for her. Aaliyah felt a flicker of anger, a familiar heat rising, but she maintained her composure. "I'm on my way to work," she said, meeting his gaze directly. "I'm a judge, and I have a case to preside over this morning." Vance's eyes narrowed as he looked her over, his doubt evident. "A judge, huh? You expect me to believe that?" Aaliyah's heart rate quickened, a subtle drumbeat against the rising tension, but she maintained her calm exterior. She calmly offered, "I have my courthouse ID in my bag if you need further proof." But he dismissed her offer, his disbelief a palpable insult, and issued a direct order. "I'll need you to step out of the car." Aaliyah hesitated. She knew her rights. She knew she had done nothing wrong, but she also knew that refusing, even when justified, could escalate the situation beyond control. It was a chilling reality for countless individuals across the country, the arbitrary power wielded by a badge, and the often unspoken fear of what happens when you challenge it. Unlike some, Aaliyah had the knowledge and the platform, but even she understood the immediate primal need to de-escalate. Reluctantly, she unbuckled her seatbelt and stepped out of the car, keeping her hands visible by her sides. She stood by the side of the road, watching as Officer Vance, without her permission or a warrant, began to search her car. The line had been crossed, and Aaliyah knew, with a sinking certainty, that this stop was no longer just about traffic. It was about something far more deeply rooted, a veil of suspicion draped over a badge of authority. Without a warrant, without consent, Officer Vance began to ransack her vehicle, his movements casual, almost contemptuous. Her carefully organized legal files, meticulously prepared for the high-stakes case awaiting her at the courthouse, were scattered carelessly across the passenger seat. Personal items, a small notebook, a half-empty coffee cup, all were tossed aside as if they were inconsequential. Aaliyah's anger simmered, a silent inferno beneath her composure as she watched her personal space, her dignity, being violated. "Is this really necessary, officer?" she asked, her voice steady despite the tremor in her heart, a quiet challenge in the face of his blatant disregard for protocol. Vance ignored her, his back to her as he continued his intrusive search, a dismissive grunt his only reply. He rummaged through her console, under the seats, in the glove compartment, each motion a deliberate act of disrespect. He found nothing, of course. There was nothing to find. But instead of an apology or even a hint of embarrassment, a smug, almost triumphant expression spread across his face as he turned back to her. "Well, we're not quite done here, are we?" he declared, his voice laced with a false sense of authority. "I'm taking you down to the station. We'll sort this out there." The words hit Aaliyah like a physical blow. Her mind raced. The absurdity, the sheer audacity of it was almost comical. If it weren't so deeply infuriating, this wasn't just an inconvenience. It was an unlawful detention, a gross abuse of power. "This is outrageous," she retorted, her voice rising slightly, the carefully constructed calm starting to crack. "You have no reason to take me to the station. I've done nothing wrong." She knew this was a critical juncture. She could argue, she could resist, but the power imbalance in that moment was stark. This wasn't about right or wrong for Officer Vance. It was about control. In that moment, a flicker of defiance, a quiet resolve, ignited within her. Her hand, steady despite the tremor in her heart, reached for her phone. As Vance reached for his radio, seemingly preparing to call for backup, Aaliyah made a split-second decision. Her fingers flew across the keypad, dialing a number she knew by heart, a lifeline in this manufactured crisis. She spoke quietly into the receiver. Her eyes locked on Vance's, who paused, a flicker of confusion crossing his face. "Yes, David, it's Aaliyah. I need you to meet me. I'm on..." She stated her location, precise and clear. "It appears I'm being detained without cause." Less than 5 minutes later, a sleek, unmarked black sedan screeched to a halt behind Vance's cruiser. Out stepped a figure, sharp and authoritative, a beacon of unexpected hope. It was Assistant District Attorney David Miller, a close colleague and a man known for his calm under pressure and his unwavering support for Aaliyah's work. Miller took in the scene, Aaliyah standing by her car, the disheveled interior, Vance's rigid posture, and immediately understood. He walked confidently towards them, his eyes meeting Aaliyah's in a shared understanding. "Judge Jenkins, is everything all right?" he asked, his voice calm but firm, a subtle challenge embedded within the question. Vance, taken aback by this sudden intrusion, demanded to know who he was. David Miller didn't waste a second. He flashed his badge, the glint of the metal a stark contrast to Vance's casual hand on his holster. "I'm Assistant District Attorney David Miller," he stated, his voice now colder, sharper. "Judge Jenkins is a close colleague of mine. Is there a problem, officer?" The air thickened with sudden tension. Vance's face, which had been set in a mask of arrogant authority, began to drain of color. The badge, the title, the implicit threat of an internal investigation, it all registered instantly. The game for Officer Vance was suddenly and irrevocably over. The air thickened with sudden tension. Officer Vance's face, which had been set in a mask of arrogant authority, began to drain of color. The badge, the title, the implicit threat of an internal investigation, it all registered instantly. The game for Officer Vance was suddenly and irrevocably over. He stammered apologies, his voice barely audible, his hand shaking as he fumbled to return Aaliyah's documents. I'm so sorry, Judge. I truly didn't realize," he mumbled, his gaze fixed somewhere over her shoulder. Aaliyah accepted her license and registration, her touch as steady as his was not. Her reply was calm, chillingly precise. "You'll be hearing from my office, Officer Vance." As Aaliyah drove away, the tremors that had been subtly present during the stop now shook her entire body. It was a mixture of residual anger, frustration, and a deep, soul-wearying sense of injustice. She gripped the steering wheel, her knuckles white. Back in her chambers, the sterile calm of her office felt like a stark contrast to the chaos she had just endured. She sank into her chair, the sleek leather feeling unfamiliar against her trembling back. She closed her eyes. The vivid image of Vance's dismissive glare burned into her mind. This wasn't just about her. It was about the countless others who faced such indignities daily, without the platform, without a David Miller appearing as if on cue. How many countless individuals had been subjected to such treatment, lost their composure, or worse, lost their freedom simply because of the color of their skin or the assumptions of those in power? The thought ignited a fresh fire within her. She was not just a judge, she was a guardian of justice, and she would not let this incident become another statistic. Her resolve hardened. She would not let this go. Immediately, she called her assistant, her voice steady now, commanding, "Get me the chief of police on the line and Officer Vance's supervisor's contact information, and clear my calendar for the first hour tomorrow morning." She had cases to preside over, important legal battles to oversee, but her mind kept returning to the street, to the unwarranted suspicion, to the casual disregard for her rights. This incident would not be swept under the rug. The next morning, Aaliyah met with Chief Eleanor Thorne, a no-nonsense woman with a reputation for being tough but fair. Thorne listened intently, her expression growing increasingly serious as Aaliyah recounted the details, her calm, measured tone giving the account even more weight. "This is unacceptable, Judge," Thorne stated firmly, her jaw set. "I assure you, there will be a swift and appropriate investigation," but Aaliyah had a larger vision. "Thank you, Chief," she began, leaning forward slightly. "I understand that this is a systemic problem, and while Officer Vance's actions are egregious, I'm not interested in just punishing one officer. I want to work with you to ensure this doesn't happen to anyone else. We need to address the root causes of this kind of behavior within the department." Chief Thorne, a rare ally in the often insular world of law enforcement leadership, recognized the opportunity. "I agree, Judge. This could be a catalyst for real change." And so, over the following weeks and months, a powerful alliance formed between the courthouse and the police department. Together, Aaliyah and Thorne spearheaded a series of tangible reforms. They launched mandatory bias, cultural sensitivity, and proper protocol training programs for the entire police department. These weren't just token sessions. They involved candid discussions, immersive scenarios, and the uncomfortable but necessary confrontation of ingrained prejudices. Officer Vance was placed on administrative leave almost immediately. The internal investigation quickly unearthed a pattern of similar behavior, a history of unwarranted stops and aggressive tactics, revealing that Aaliyah's encounter was far from an isolated incident. Within weeks, due to this documented pattern and the severity of his actions against a judicial officer, Officer Vance was dismissed from the force. But Aaliyah didn't stop there. The incident had garnered national attention, and Aaliyah became an unexpected symbol of the fight for equality within the justice system. She leveraged her newfound platform, speaking at community forums across Atlanta, meeting with lawmakers, and pushing tirelessly for legislation that would hold law enforcement more accountable. The very police misconduct case she was presiding over took on new significance, informed by her personal experience, and her rulings became even more incisive, more just. This single, unwarranted traffic stop had set off a chain reaction, proving that even in the face of profound injustice, seeds of change could be planted, cultivated, and eventually blossom into meaningful reform. But while systems could change, could individuals truly transform? Aaliyah was about to receive a surprising answer. Months later, amidst the stacks of case files and legal briefs that cluttered her desk, an unexpected envelope arrived. The return address, faintly familiar, made Aaliyah pause. It was from James Vance. Her heart gave a curious thump. She hesitated, unsure what to expect. Was it a legal threat, a complaint, or something else entirely? With a deep breath, she tore it open. The shaky penmanship on the page belied the weight of the words within. "Judge Jenkins," it began. "I don't know if you'll ever read this, but I felt I had to write to you." Aaliyah's eyes scanned the words, her initial apprehension slowly giving way to a profound sense of surprise. Vance's letter was raw, unvarnished, and shockingly genuine. "I know that I was wrong. Wrong not just in how I treated you that day, but in how I've approached my job for years," he confessed. "I've let biases cloud my judgment and have acted out of arrogance rather than duty. I see now that I've done more harm than good to the very community I swore to protect." He explained that losing his job was a wake-up call, a harsh but necessary jolt that forced him to confront the dark corners of his own prejudices. He spoke of how he'd lost everything that had defined him, leaving him adrift until he found a new purpose. "I've started volunteering at a community center that helps at-risk youth, many of whom have had negative experiences with police," he wrote. "I'm learning a lot from them. They share their stories, their fears, their distrust, and it's humbling to see the impact that my actions and the actions of others like me have had on their lives. I see the pain, the anger, and the desperation that I once contributed to." He wasn't asking for forgiveness, he emphasized. He didn't expect it, but he wanted her to know he was trying to be better, to atone for his past, one small step at a time. He even credited her courage and composure during their encounter for making him realize he was on the wrong path. "Your quiet strength, even when I was at my worst, opened my eyes," he admitted. "You didn't fight fire with fire. You met ignorance with dignity, and that stayed with me." Aaliyah reread the letter, her initial surprise deepening into a complex mix of emotions. She hadn't expected this. She appreciated his willingness to acknowledge his mistakes, to begin the arduous journey of self-reflection and redemption. It was a testament to the idea that even the most ingrained biases could, with enough shock and introspection, begin to unravel. She folded the letter carefully, placing it in a seldom-used drawer in her desk. She didn't know what the future held for James Vance, but his words offered a glimmer of hope, a testament to the human capacity for growth, even in the most hardened hearts. That evening, as Aaliyah drove home, she reflected on her journey. The road had been long, fraught with challenges, battles fought and won, and others still raging, but she knew she was on the right path. The incident with Vance had set off a chain reaction, one that had led to tangible, meaningful changes within the police department and sparked broader conversations about justice and accountability. She couldn't control the actions of others or erase the systemic injustices that still plagued society, but she could control her response to them. She could choose to fight, to advocate, to lead with integrity and compassion, and in that, she found an unwavering strength. The next day, Aliyah returned to the courthouse with renewed determination. She knew there would be more challenges ahead, more battles to fight, more systems to reshape. But she was ready. She was a judge, a guardian of justice, and she wouldn't rest until the system she served was one that treated everyone with the fairness and respect they deserved. As she took her seat on the bench, gavel in hand, Aliyah felt a deep sense of purpose. She was where she was meant to be, and she would continue to fight for the justice that so many had been denied for far too long. And with each case, each ruling, she would make it clear. Discrimination had no place in her courtroom or in the world she was working tirelessly to build. The story of Judge Aliyah Jenkins and Officer James Vance reminds us that change, true change, often begins with a single moment of courage. For Aliyah, it was maintaining her dignity in the face of blatant disrespect. For Vance, it was the humbling process of self-reflection and daring to admit his wrongs. Their paths, once violently intersecting, became a powerful testament to the long, arduous, but ultimately hopeful journey towards a more just world. Aliyah's experience is a mirror reflecting the everyday realities many Black individuals still face. But it's also a beacon, showing us that our voices, our resilience, and our unwavering pursuit of what is right can indeed move mountains. One bias training, one policy reform, one genuine apology at a time. It's a call to action for all of us to stand tall, to demand accountability, and to never give up on the promise of true equality. What an incredible journey, right? We hope Judge Aliyah's story resonated with you, inspired you, and perhaps even sparked a new conversation. If it did, please show your support. Hit that like button right now. It truly helps us share these powerful narratives with more people who need to hear them. Share this video with your friends, your family, on your social networks. Let's spread this message of resilience and justice far and wide.